Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is offering an apology for not telling the truth about the vaping, groping, arguing, and disruptive behavior that got her thrown out of the Denver Center for the Performing Arts last weekend. Boebert initially denied that behavior until 9 News political reporter Marshall Zellinger got security camera video showing her vaping, taking photos, getting frisky with a male companion, and ignoring requests to stop until they were escorted out.
Lauren Boebert always rubbed me up the wrong way, and I guess now I know why. So this all started when Lauren Boebert, a congresswoman, and a then unidentified man were thrown out of a Beetlejuice musical in Denver when people in the audience complained that they were vaping, singing, recording, and causing a general disturbance. I mean, really? This woman was being too loud? No way.
It is so good to be in a room full of patriots who love freedom, who love this country, and who love the greatest president in my lifetime, Donald J. Trump.
So when the news first came out, Boebert said that all she was guilty of was laughing and singing too loud, denying that she ever even vaped. Here's her train wreck of an excuse.
Evidently you went to a musical, the Beetlejuice musical in Denver at some big playhouse, and here's the video. They had to evict you, they had to kick you out, and now of course the mainstream media in Denver and all the national media is picking it up, making all these wild claims about why you were taken out of the theater. So I'm giving you the floor here. What happened, what went down, and was the musical any good? Is Beetlejuice any good, first and foremost? Was it good?
Okay, since you asked that, Dan, I have to tell you that the Beetlejuice, the musical, was phenomenal, and I can't wait to read reviews and see how it ends, since I didn't get to see the ending.
Right.
But isn't it interesting? You know, we just had Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, announce an impeachment inquiry yesterday. We're facing a government shutdown and trying to fund the federal government. We have a wide open southern border. We have Zelensky threatening to send refugees here. And what's the top story? Lauren Boebert getting kicked out of the Buell Theater in Denver, Colorado.
It's what the media does. It's what the media does. So
yes,
what went down?
I was a little too eccentric. I'm very known for having a animated personality, maybe overtly animated personality. I was laughing, I was singing, having a fantastic time. Was told to kind of settle it down a little bit, which I did. But then my next slip up was taking a picture of
you can't take any images of the play. I've done it too. I've snuck them. Shh. Right, so you got thrown out because you took a pic and you weren't supposed to. But you know what? Here's my whole thing.
There was no arguing. There's reports saying that I was arguing, threatening to call the Denver mayor. I don't know why I would ever call the Denver mayor. I think he would have tried to lock me up.
Yeah.
There were reports saying I was on the board of something. I don't know what I'm on the board of. I'm on the edge of a lot of things, let me tell you.
Well, probably the people that complained, here's what I'm thinking. You're in Denver, Lauren. It's very liberal. The people that complained to the ushers that you were being noisy could have recognized you and been like, oh, that's that MAGA girl. Yeah, exactly. You know how they are. I get it.
And then the videotape came out. So not only was Boebert apparently being generally obnoxious, flipping off ushers and saying, "Don't you know who I am?" and the ultimate display of politician shittiness, she found time between shouting, vaping, and recording the show for a quick public groping session with a man who isn't her husband. And what makes this even funnier is that Lauren Boebert, a born-again Christian, was groping a man during a family-friendly musical while she's going through a divorce, goodness knows why, a man who is a Democrat who owns a bar in Aspen that hosts drag events. And Lauren Boebert hates drag events as much as she apparently hates going unfondled in public. But what really bothers me here isn't that Lauren Boebert is a fraud, it's that a ton of people on our side are making a fool of themselves defending her. Lauren Boebert is hardly the first grifting bimbo to realize that grabbing a gun and a cross and telling actual Christians what they want to hear is a good career move. She might be the first one dumb enough to get caught groping and being groped at a family event. But if she was a Democrat, our entire side would be condemning her as they should. But now it's all excuses and distraction and deflection. They're saying things like, well, the other side is worse, or there are more important things to talk about. First off, we can talk about more than one thing at once. But second, I thought we were supposed to be the principal ones, the side that cared about behavior, the side that values values, the side that expects born-again Christians to act like born-again Christians, especially if they've based their latest career on launching a culture war on everything that flies in the face of Christianity. Just because someone out there is worse doesn't make bad behavior okay. If that's the standard, there is no standard. As long as you can point to someone out there who is somehow worse, you can get away with basically anything. If we run with the argument that a lot of people are making, that what our side doesn't matter as long as they're on our side, there is no difference between us and the left. If principles, behavior, and values don't matter, what are we even fighting for? We end up fighting for nothing but power, which means we're nothing but leftists who go to church on Sunday mornings and then grab a dick at a musical on Sunday night. If we decide that principles, behavior, and values do matter, and newsflash, they do, then maybe this woman shouldn't be leading the charge. If Lauren Boebert wants to call herself a born-again Christian and rely on the support of actual Christians, maybe she needs to turn down the hormones and try being born again. And maybe our side should stop falling for grifting frauds. But hey, I'm just being animated. So at first I wasn't going to talk about this because there's so much we don't know. But at this point, I have to address it because we're seeing a divide in society that's uncovering a massive problem with how we see justice, law and order, sexual assault, and power. So let's start from the beginning. Russell Brand has been accused by 4 women of sexually assaulting them between 2006 and 2013. These allegations were all made as part of a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times, and Channel 4's dispatches. These are all based in the UK. So anyone commenting on this should first read the full investigation, which can be found on the Times website, but here are the 4 allegations which I'm going to read straight from the report. And just to warn you, these are graphic accounts of sexual assault allegations. One woman alleges that Brand raped her against a wall in his Los Angeles home. She was treated at a rape crisis center on the same day, according to medical records. Text messages show that in the hours after leaving his house, she told Brand that she had been scared by him and felt taken advantage of, adding, quote, "When a girl says no, it means no," end quote. Brand replied, saying he was, quote, "very sorry." A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was 31 and she was 16 and still at school. She said he referred to her as, quote, "the child" during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship that lasted for about 3 months, and that Brand once, quote, "forced his penis down her throat," end quote, making her choke. She says she tried to push him off and said she had to punch him in the stomach to make him stop. A third woman claims that he sexually assaulted her while she worked with him in Los Angeles, and that he threatened to take legal action if she told anyone else about her allegation. The fourth described being sexually assaulted by Brand and him being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. And this is a large investigation with witness accounts, text messages, etc., etc. So again, you should read it for yourself. And on the other side of this, after these accusations were published, Russell Brand released a video on YouTube denying the allegations, and it's important that I show this video in full, so here it is.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff, like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of, and we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth, Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles, Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist, Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous, consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
Okay, so to recap, what we have here are 4 serious allegations of behaviour ranging from gross to criminal, presented by a few mainstream media outlets in the UK against a well-known celebrity, and that celebrity has publicly denied the allegations. So now the next logical step would be to ask what the next steps are. And it looks like the next steps are some level of criminal investigation. So according to the BBC, the Metropolitan Police have said that they've received a report of an alleged sexual assault in London in 2003, and they've said, quote, "We continue to encourage anyone who believes they may have been a victim of sexual offence, no matter how long ago it was, to contact us." And the LA Police Department have said that they haven't been notified of, quote, "any incidents, reports, or allegations regarding Russell Brand or any of the accusers," and they couldn't immediately confirm reports that an LAPD officer was alerted by a rape crisis centre in 2012 about one of the accusers being treated there following the alleged incident with Russell Brand. So that's where we are, and that's where we should stay. I don't know if Russell Brand did this. You don't know if Russell Brand did this. The only people who know what's true and what's not are the women making these accusations and Russell Brand. So the rational response here is to be shocked by these allegations, take them seriously, and wait for this to play out in the legal system. But we don't live in a rational time, and most people are just reacting like idiots. So first off, there's the outgrowth of the hashtag #MeToo era, who take delight in taking down anyone who's not on their side. There are a lot of people assuming Russell Brand is guilty, simply because they don't like who he is, or what he says, or who he speaks with, or they just believe the insane notion that we must believe all women. And this has led to other truly outrageous actions, like Russell Brand being demonetized on YouTube. But there have also been some truly moronic responses from the other side. And as always, two things can be true at once. Yes, it's wrong that anyone is assuming Russell Brand is guilty, and it's obviously wrong that companies like YouTube are just passing judgment by demonetizing his account. Not illegal, sure, but wrong. Because I thought we live in a society that's supposed to value innocent until proven guilty, so any kind of rush to judgment is flying in the face of that. But I'm also seeing a return of a lot of ugly stuff that showed why the real Me Too movement needed to happen and still needs to happen. So for example, people are comparing this to Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, and other empty accusations we've seen in American life in recent years, but there's one problem. Russell Brand is pushing the idea that there's a coordinated effort by the media in response to what he's been saying recently. But not only did this investigation start in 2019, these accusations are being made by the British media, not the American media, and their defamation laws are completely different. In the US, if someone thinks you defamed them by lying about you in the press and they sue you, they need to prove that what you said was false. But in the UK, the burden of proof is on the person being sued. So if Russell Brand sued The Times and Channel 4, they would have to prove that everything they reported was true, or else he could, with his resources, take them to court and bankrupt them, which he might do, but this raises the obvious point that consequences for just making stuff up in the press are serious and real in the UK in a way that they're just not in the US. And serious outlets like The Times are less likely to risk their entire organisation if they're not confident in their own work. We should be able to agree, if we're being serious people, and I know being serious is so out of style, we should be able to agree that these are allegations, they're serious, and more serious than the sort of unsubstantiated fiction produced during the sham Kavanaugh hearings. But a lot of people are pushing the idea that this is a trial by media, but The Times and Channel 4 are doing what the media is supposed to do. They're collecting information and sharing it. And yes, it would be great if the media showed just as much interest in a whole bunch of other stories, but that doesn't make this one not important. People aren't pissed because the media are investigating the alleged behaviour of a celebrity. They're pissed because they think Russell Brand is on their side. And this brings me to my second point. Every allegation is a one-off individual case and deserves to be treated this way. Yeah, there are fake allegations out there and they're disgusting, but there are also real allegations. And the only way to tell the fake from the real? Objective investigation, which can start in the media and should end with law enforcement. But that's not what people really want. Instead, people rush to judgment based on protecting their own narrative, even if it means contradicting their narrative. Don't forget, this all supposedly happened during the height of Russell Brand's fame in entertainment and Hollywood. This is an industry that a lot of people will happily say is dominated by abuse and sexual assault. So why does the assumption of collective guilt apply when it's targeting people you hate, but when it's someone you like, the broad strokes label just disappears? All of Hollywood are rapists, pedophiles, except for the people I like. What a standard. Because the truth is, there is no standard. We're seeing it from people who want Russell Brand to go down because they're assuming he's guilty, but you're also seeing it from people who say they want due process, but are also doing PR work for someone in their own bubble, saying things like, well, why didn't these women come forward before? Why did they wait so long? What's in it for them? But Russell Brand has changed. And this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it has to be said, this is the same old sexist crap that is the entire reason so many sexual assault victims never come forward. People are complaining that some of these women chose to remain anonymous, and then they're complaining that the ones who didn't remain anonymous just want fame and fortune. And would it be great if the victims of sexual assault, who are most of the time women, came forward immediately? Of course it would. But to demand this of them shows a total lack of empathy and understanding, almost always from men who have never spoken with someone who's actually gone through something like this. Sexual assault is one of the worst crimes, if not the worst crime possible, and it's a crime that stays with the victim in a way no other crime does. But it also brings a whole other wave of emotions and fears beyond just the attack. Fear of the attacker, fear of not being believed, fear of reliving the attack, fear of shame, fear of judgment, fear of being blamed. The people who are saying that Russell Brand isn't the person he used to be are the same people assuming that the alleged victims of sexual assault years ago are the same people now as they were then. Not only have the times changed, where accusations of sexual assault are taken way more seriously, but victims of sexual assault have grown as people. Some of them are adults now, but weren't when these attacks allegedly happened. So if the person accused has room for growth, why doesn't the accuser? The answer is simple. Victims of sexual assault already had a tough time, bordering on the impossible, and our complete overreaction to what the Me Too movement turned into has made it even worse. Instead of presuming the innocence of the accused and respecting the accuser and waiting for evidence, we assume the guilt of the accuser. Honestly, Megyn Kelly said it better than anyone.
Can I just tell you guys, I realize that the knee-jerk instinct now by so many is Russell Brand is wrongly accused. These women are all liars. I'm sorry, this is extremely detailed. And in the case of the other woman, there's an actual set of medical records after she went to a rape crisis center the day of the alleged encounter, plus apologetic, begging for forgiveness text from Russell Brand. Could you please, for a second, stay open-minded to the possibility that the women are telling the truth? We don't need to so overcorrect from the Me Too movement that every woman gets completely disregarded and called a liar when she finds the guts to come forward and make an allegation. They may be telling the truth. It's worth investigating. We don't need to knee-jerk condemn him, and we don't need to knee-jerk condemn them. I'm just pissed because what I've seen is like a rash of guys coming out to be like, it's bullshit. You don't know whether it's bullshit or not. Did you read the report of this woman? Did you read the alleged rape details? Did you read the text message that she has from Russell Brand begging for forgiveness? There's at least enough for us to want more facts.
And that's the thing. I don't know if Russell Brand is guilty. You don't know if Russell Brand is guilty. These women might be telling the truth. They might be lying. Some of them might be telling the truth. Some of them might be lying. But unlike Brett Kavanaugh or Clarence Thomas, there is evidence as a result of journalistic investigation that comes with severe defamation consequences if it is all just rubbish. So the only response here that makes any sense is to wait. Due process is the answer. But that's due process for both sides, not due process for the person or people you want to win. All I'm seeing is a rush to judgment by both sides based on what they want. And in that system, justice can never be found. Thanks to this fat f***, the US Senate has gotten rid of their dress code. You thought pajamas and underwear for Zoom calls during COVID was bad. Or full-on wanking if you're Jeffrey Toobin. Well, COVID lockdowns might be over, at least until the election, but dressing like a freaking slob is here to stay.
The Senate will stop enforcing its formal dress code. No official reason has been given, but many point to one man for the changes, and you're looking at him right there. Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman, well known for sporting hoodies and shorts instead of a suit and tie. Well, some of the more formal senators say Fetterman's look shouldn't lead to more lax standards.
I feel it's, a little more freedom, which should be bipartisanship, you know what I'm saying? So, but I don't know why the right side seems to be losing their minds over it. Like, dogs and cats are living together and, like the world's spinning off its axis. But, I think it's a good thing.
To see it completely downgraded, no dress code now, I just think it's another step in the wrong direction.
Republican Senator Susan Collins mocked the new rules, saying that she planned to wear a bikini on the Senate floor today. Dress code changes do not apply to staffers and others who may appear on the Senate floor, meaning that they'll have to still dress up.
Then again, Chuck Schumer probably wants to wear his own clothes too. And John Fetterman fired back with the standard response of what about Republicans, saying, I figure if I take up vaping and grabbing the hog during a live musical, they'll make me a folk hero. To be fair, that's pretty funny, even though John Fetterman hasn't even seen the hog in the last 20 years. But back to the dress code stuff. First off, dress codes do matter. How you present yourself in a workplace says a lot about how seriously you take the job. If your doctor turned up in flip-flops and a towel, you'd probably ask to see someone else. If your priest showed up to a funeral dressed as the Grim Reaper, that might turn a few heads. If your pilot showed up wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey, you'd get the hell off that Spirit flight as fast as you can. And also, dress codes matter because tradition matters. Democrats can't stop going on and on about January 6th as a national assault on the sacred seat of democracy, but they have no problem with people showing up like they're 6 beers in on a Sunday morning. But the problem here isn't just that the Senate is changing its laws to suit one man, the problem is the man himself. Now, most of the time, the criticisms you're going to hear about John Fetterman are to do with his obvious mental collapse, but let's be honest, being brain dead doesn't disqualify you from office these days. If anything, it's a prerequisite.
Now, even as we evolve our institutions and drive creative new partnerships, let me be clear. Certain principles of our international system are sacrosanct.
And if you have a problem with the fact that John Fetterman somehow won his Senate race, you should also ask questions as to why Donald Trump pushed Dr. Oz as his opponent. Now, the real problem I have with John Fetterman isn't that he dresses like a bum necessarily. It's the reason he dresses like a bum. The truth is, these aren't his real clothes. They're his costume. He's a massive fraud. John Fetterman has tricked his entire voting base into thinking he's just like them by wearing what he thinks the average American wears. For John Fetterman, every day is Halloween, and every day his costume is his idea of a stereotypical blue-collar American. Except the stereotypical blue-collar American works hard, and John Fetterman does not. Now, most fake socialists sponge off their parents during their teenage years and maybe during college and at least till grad school, but John Fetterman did it until he was 49 years old. He's such a blue-collar American that Mummy and Daddy supported him and his whole family for the entire 13 years he was mayor of Braddock, living in a loft that his sister bought for him. So if you're offended that John Fetterman is wearing a hoodie and shorts to the Senate to represent the people of Pennsylvania, I get it. But the reason he's doing this should offend you far more. Why does John Fetterman dress like a slob? Because that's what he thinks of the people he represents. So a bunch of authors are suing the people behind the AI software ChatGPT over what they say is copyright infringement. This list includes George R.R. Martin, the author of the Game of Thrones books, and John Grisham, who writes all the books your dad likes. This lawsuit is arguing that their books were used to train AI models without their permission, and this isn't the first time something like this has come up. A few months ago, Sarah Silverman sued OpenAI and Meta for copyright infringement, and she managed to file the lawsuit without one single comment about her own vagina, so first time for everything.
We're back now with new details on a lawsuit filed by comedian Sarah Silverman and 2 authors.
They're suing Meta and OpenAI, alleging that those companies are using their content without permission to make their apps work better overall.
And then there was the open letter signed by Margaret Atwood and Philip Pullman calling for AI companies to compensate them for using their work. So here's the thing. This isn't about copyright infringement. What it's really about is the worry, and it's a real worry, that AI could replace content creators. Because AI models aren't copying content, they're learning from content to produce other content. Really, the only difference between me reading Game of Thrones and learning how to write my own fantasy series and AI doing it is that I'm a human and AI is not. Is a fantasy author guilty of copyright infringement because they once read Lord of the Rings? No. So the truth here is simple. When it comes down to it, everyone is selfish. Most people love the idea of automation, AI, robots when it's making their lives better. If your Uber costs half as much because there is no driver anymore, that's great for the rider, bad for the driver. If you can order McDonald's at one of those big screens instead of at the counter, that's quicker and cheaper for you, sucks for the person who just lost their job. And if people wake up and realize that we really don't need realtors with or without AI, there's going to be a bunch of very upset useless people out there who hate AI too. But in all of these cases, the consumer is usually better off. It's the person who was replaced that's unhappy. And in the same way, I think a lot of these creators are now worried about their own spot in society, which for basically all of human history was untouchable. I'm not saying they're wrong to worry or wrong to fight back, but what I am saying is that this isn't about copyright. It's really about self-preservation. Because the worry here isn't just about AI, it's that AI is good. It might even be better than a lot of people out there. So a true artist can never be beaten by a machine. There's an indescribable level of creativity that can never be replaced by software. But if you're a mediocre artist or a lazy artist, or you're just painting by numbers and churning out the same crap year after year, AI is coming for you. Let's take one of the worst moments in movie history as an example.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
So I asked ChatGPT to rewrite this scene to be topical and romantic, with Anakin expressing his love for Padme without talking randomly about sand. Here's what it spat out in 1 second. Anakin and Padme stand together in a picturesque meadow on Naboo. The setting sun casts a warm, golden glow over them. Anakin, gazing into Padme's eyes. You know, Padme, this place is unlike anything I've ever seen. The way the sunlight dances on the water, the gentle breeze that rustles the leaves, it's all so enchanting. Padme smiles, her eyes filled with affection. Padme softly, it's a beautiful world, Anakin, and being here with you makes it even more so. Anakin, taking Padme's hand, I've always admired your strength and determination, Padme. You inspire me every day. And there's something I've been wanting to tell you. Something I felt since the moment we met. Padme looks at him, her heart racing. Padme sincerely, Anakin, what is it? Anakin nervously, I love you, Padme. I've loved you since the first moment I laid eyes on you, and my feelings have only grown stronger with time. Padme's eyes well up with tears of happiness. She leans in and kisses him tenderly. Their love is undeniable, and in this beautiful meadow on Naboo, it blooms like the flowers around them. Padme tearfully, Anakin, I love you too. I always have and I always will. They embrace, the setting sun casting a warm, romantic hue over their love-filled moment. So I know I'm not getting an Oscar anytime soon, but not only is this not copyright infringement because it's the original creation of a piece of software, it's better than the original. Not that that's difficult, but you get my point. And let's not forget that everything is a copy of something else already. Almost everything creative has been done before. Can Madonna sue Sam Smith for squeezing into his red onesie and strutting around the stage like a fat discount devil? No. Just like she can't sue the person she copied. So the idea that AI created art is the property of the person who created the content it somehow built on is equally ridiculous. Again, this isn't really about AI. It's really about selfishness. I'm sure every single one of these artists would be happy to have their food delivered by a robot, or have their calendar organized by a computer, or make profits on investments handled by AI. But we're not talking about someone else's job anymore. We're talking about their job. And suddenly, AI isn't quite so cool anymore. Turns out the M in BLM stands for money. Whatever you think about the Black Lives Matter movement, one thing is true. It made a lot of people rich. The BLM organization took in tens of millions of dollars, with Patrisse Cullors, who called herself a trained Marxist, making sure that money went straight to the needy. Her and her family.
Yes, Patrisse Cullors. She has not only been at the helm of Black Lives Matter for more than 6 years, but she was one of the 3 co-founders, and she's going to be leaving to focus on her book and TV deals. This is a woman who identifies as a trained Marxist, Rowan. And as we know, BLM, if you actually look at their charter and what they push, they're unashamedly Marxist, anti-capitalist. But we've also found out that she has accumulated quite an impressive multi-million-dollar property portfolio, and BLM continues to enjoy support from all those dim-witted corporates who back a company that is anti-capitalist. It's bizarre, but here we are.
She went on a real estate spending binge, spending millions on 4 homes, another $6 million on a secret mansion in Los Angeles, and then millions of dollars more to friends and family members for random services. But this wasn't limited to just BLM. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. You had a wave of pseudo-academics rushing in to squeeze as much as they could out of so-called anti-racism. There's white woman Robin DiAngelo, who wrote White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. You know what's not hard? Charging tens of thousands of dollars for lectures and retreats to teach people to try and, quote, be a little less white. It's actually really easy to be a little less white. Just go outside for a few hours. And then there's the grifter-in-chief, Ibram X Kendi, a pusher of critical race theory who exploded onto the scene during the BLM riots. So after George Floyd's death in 2020, with his book How to Be an Anti-Racist, another weird how-to guide for guilty white people, Kendi managed to cement himself at the center of the so-called anti-racism movement, pushing the idea that racism is the single driving cause behind all of our problems. He believes that if a difference can be linked to race, racism is to blame, whether it is or not. He said, when I see racial disparities, I see racism. He also argues that to be an anti-racist, you also have to be an anti-capitalist. But just like the Marxists over at BLM, that didn't stop him from charging $20,000 an hour for virtual meetings, or raking in millions of dollars in donations through his anti-racism center. An anti-racism center that is now imploding because people are waking up to the reality that this was all just one massive money-making scheme. Former employees are now turning on his organization for laying off about half of its staff, and Boston University has announced that they're launching an inquiry to investigate complaints of failed leadership and financial mismanagement. One former faculty member even accused the think tank of unemployment violence. Here's how the Boston Globe described Kendi's anti-racism center. Since its announced launch in June 2020, just days after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, the center has raised tens of millions of dollars from tech entrepreneurs, Boston area corporations, and thousands of small donors. At the time, Kendi, the author of the best-selling 2019 book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, said the center would solve these intractable racial problems of our time. But that doesn't look like it happened. The organization was just being mismanaged on a really fundamental level, said Philippe Copeland, a professor in BU's School of Social Work who also worked for the center as assistant director of narrative. Amazing Orwellian title. Although most decision-making authority rested with Kendi, Copeland said he found it difficult to schedule meetings with him. Other staffers described paralysis in the organization because Kendi declined to delegate authority and was not often available. So to recap, according to Ibram X Kendi, a racist policy is anything that produces or sustains racial inequity between racial groups. Ibram X Kendi took in millions of dollars from corporations looking to buy their way out of BLM guilt, and it looks like the money was basically flushed down the toilet. I guess that makes him a racist too.